Mike Moore Media, the first place to hear Rockingham County news and information.
George Murphy is Wentworth Town Administrator, and he's on the line. Hey, George, how are you?
Doing well, Mike, and yourself?
I'm doing just great, thanks. Well, I know you had, I don't know what's on your agenda, but I know you had a special meeting Monday. Do we need to go over that in any way?
Well, just for the sake of knowing how things work at times of a pandemic and when you're doing social distancing and meetings by electronic means, it might be kind of curious. Because in the month of June, the Wentworth Town Council met a total of 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and did it totally by Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
We did that with the meeting that we had originally scheduled, the traditionally scheduled meeting. And, of course, at that one, we did not have the budget completely ready for presentation at that time. Mm-hmm. And so we had to do a second meeting where you present the budget, and then you have to have a hearing, and then there has to be an opportunity for public comment.
Right.
And ordinarily in that hearing, with the procedure, you have to have it allowed that people are present at the meeting and they can make comments and it's entered into the record, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And then town council can take that into consideration before they pass the budget. Because we were doing a virtual meeting, we were required to then allow, and we had comments come in through email and I think through our Facebook page. And then after the meeting where the hearing is held, then it's tabled, and we recess the meeting, and then you can reconvene after, I think, a minimum of 24 hours where additional public comments can be made mm-hmm. before you actually make a decision, before the council makes a decision on the budget. So we wound up meeting on Thursday of last week, and then the recess from that meeting, and then the meeting to vote on the budget was held on Monday evening, and that was predominantly about the only item. We had some other things on the agenda, but there was no information on those items that had been tabled from the meeting earlier. So mm-hmm. it was kind of a technical thing that you had to do. We wound up not having any public comments specifically directed at the budget. So apparently there was no real concerns about, and of course we've had a real transparent process with that because
sure.
the town council here, our budget's a lot simpler than most of the other municipalities. And our town council involves itself on item-by-item decisions in open meetings prior to or in the development process of the budget. So, Yvonne and I get together and talk over different things. We get information from the funding requests. We discuss each item in town council with them. They make directives about how that they want to handle certain situations. And so it's really laid out there pretty openly for folks to look at. And we did put a copy of it online at our website so that people could see it there and download it. The interesting thing about doing the Zoom meetings is that we've had, in the second time we did it, we had some technical glitches, but it's worked very well for us. And then we've had Roy Sawyers has been live streaming those as well. He records the meetings. We contract with him for that. Mm-hmm. And they are also played, I think, on the government channel, local government channel as well. But you can live stream those. And it's done through, I think, his Facebook page. And my son and his wife actually watched it because they wanted their granddaughter to see me on the television.
All right, yeah. There's Papa.
I think as much as anything. But anyway, and they, my son was telling me that there were all kinds of comments that were being made from people in the public on Roy's Facebook page about issues that were taking place in the meeting. So it was that's an interesting aspect of it,
mm-hmm.
Kind of a neat way to do it. And usually our meetings are not extremely well attended. We love to have folks here, but since we're doing them live, apparently we've got more folks tuning in. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. It's kind of a positive out of all of the negatives,
perhaps. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, Zoom is the word, that's for sure, these days.
Well, and I was concerned. I know that there was a lot of reporting about Zoom. Matter of fact, I even heard some report, I think yesterday, about some meeting that was held, and people, what do they call it, Zoom bombing, or people were crashing in and making all kinds of outlandish comments and stuff. But Yvonne did some research on it, and what she found was those were folks probably using the free service that they have. And if you purchase a subscribed service, that you have a little bit better control over it with that. And so far, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues like that for us. So it has worked well. It's still, I'm sorry, seeing the images on the screen is not the same as having people in the room. But I've even had family gatherings or meetings or whatever with that, where we had folks from here in Rockingham County with family members in Kentucky and family members in Oregon, and it was kind of neat to at least be able to see each other and communicate.
Sure. That's worked out well. For those of us that haven't been on your Facebook page and checked this out, tell us a little bit about the budget in the coming year that goes into effect July 1. What is the total budget and things like that, George?
Well, and this last year was kind of an anomaly. Well, it was an anomaly because we had a large project, which was the Wentworth Park, which we'll talk about in a few moments here. And so last year's budget total was a little over $1.2 million, which was unusually high for the town of Wentworth. But with a project like that, that explains it. This year's budget is more in line with what past budgets have been. This one's around $709,400. And the issue there is, of course, you don't have that large project like the park taking place. The park itself, all total, is was it about a $1.12 million project, and the town used fund balance in part. We had a capital reserve fund that we had been setting aside for Parks and Recreation for a number of years for some of it, and we financed some of it. And that finance aspect is a part of this budget because we'll be paying back, I think we did a 5-year term on that. The town traditionally, with a loan, like when they built the town hall or when we did the renovation project at the Wentworth Community Center where the post office is now located, those were multi-year notes, and usually the town would pay those off early. I think with the community center it was a 5-year note, and we paid it off after 3. There's a lot more uncertainty at present with the pandemic issues and how that's affecting budgets, in that the town, the primary source of revenue for the town of Wentworth, which does not levy a property tax, the primary source for the town of Wentworth is the sales and use tax. And the expectations with the economic downturn is that sales and use tax receipts are going to be down considerably. We operated the budget. Yvonne and I talked it over and recommended to council. They went along with this. We're estimating a 25% cut in that funding source. We were able to make that up from the fund balance that we have. The town has traditionally maintained a very healthy fund balance, and even with that transfer and that in this budget, our fund balance is still at about, I think it's 197%, which is way high. Which means technically we could operate almost 3 years with the budget that we have at present. And we don't know how long the pandemic is going to have a negative impact on the economy, but we're probably in a much easier state than a lot of the other municipalities are, because they've got a variety of funding sources that are going to be potentially negatively impacted by this. So we're still being very cautious. And I mean, we have had, our town council tends to be very responsible, very conservative, and very cautious, I think, with what we do. And they did that as we went through this budget process. They used that characteristic was there as well. So at present time, I think we're in good shape. I'm hoping that things will even out and turn around a little bit. But the news that we're having is that the pandemic is still very much with us and apparently growing a little bit. So that's a real source of concern. I'm not wearing a mask talking to you over the phone right now, but I am wearing one when I'm out in public and everything.
And as of 5 p.m. tomorrow, we will all be.
Yes, well, the issue for me on that is the primary thing that they've said about wearing masks. When you're listening to Governor Cooper, when you're listening to Dr. Cohen, when you're listening to Mike Sprayberry, the wearing the mask is a means of reducing your ability, if you are infected, of transmitting it. It's a means of acting responsibly. And hear a lot of people talking about their rights, and very few people want to talk about their responsibilities. And I think that being responsible people, that's one of the things that we can do. Of course, it is an interesting time. It's like I was telling my wife, I got into the car one day several weeks ago and had the radio tuned to National Public Radio, I think to WUNC, and it was right in the middle of an interview, one of the day programs that they had, and I heard a voice, and I automatically went, "That's Mike Sprayberry." I thought, how in the world do I have gotten to know him and Dr. Cohen so well? I think.
Yeah.
But they've been doing, I think, a really good job with that. But that issue with being responsible and trying to take care of one another, I think is a good means to way of operating.
Yeah. Well said, indeed. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mentioned the park. You interested?
I am always interested in the park.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
The park has been moving along fairly well. Weather has gotten in the way with some fairly heavy rain events that we've had, but we don't think that that's going to be a significant delay. We're still hoping by the end of August to have it in place. And people, as they're driving by, they can see where the footprint is and where they're, if they can see over the grass on the right-of-way there.
Okay, yeah. We can look over.
Tall.
Yeah.
But the restroom and the plumbing areas on that and the footings were poured and the foundation of that is there. I was talking to Mike Tilley, who's the site superintendent, and they've had the groundwork done for the picnic shelter and the covered stage area, and they're working on getting those footings poured. Materials are coming in, should be here this week, and hoping to get started on the actual building phases. You might notice that they did they planted the grass seed, and the grass is growing. So that has changed what was that barren earth that was down there quite a bit. They've been doing some of the trenching to get in the electrical systems. The sewer issue has continued to be a problem, and I know I feel like a broken record. We thought we were going to have this resolved and taken care of probably 6 weeks ago. But we ran into an issue. Council voted to go with sewer alternate 1, but when they started doing the surveying and the what they call potholing for that, they realized that there was the infrastructure that was underground, under the roadway there, and the depth of the sewer, the manhole on the other side of the road, which we would need to bore to, was not very deep, and we couldn't go through there. That we have uncovered that there are two options. One, the original option in the bid was to simply go straight across from the park and bore under the road there with a 4-inch line and connect. And, of course, the town entered into that agreement with Harry Rakestraw, who owns property, and he agreed to cover the additional cost so that he could connect his property to the sewer system. And they have been surveying and potholing for that location, and that has a much deeper manhole on the other side of the road, so that looks promising. And then there was another that was about 180 feet east